Ready.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. All right. I think we're now live. Good evening, all you Cougars out there. It's Bernard Nomberg with another of our conversations with Cougars, and we've got Jason Mullins with me tonight. Hey, Jason, how's it going?
Good, Bernard. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I like that shirt. Is that a throwback or a new one?
Well, let me get up here. This is the screen print, or what's the name of the place in Dothan? That makes all the t-shirts. This is the Northview shirt that signifies born in '78 and died in 19. You know, but
Yeah.
it never dies in our mind, as you know.
That's right.
So,
That's exactly right. Well, I want to welcome a whole bunch of folks just rolled in, a bunch of names you might remember or know. Leslie Holly, Martin Andrews, Leslie Bruton
oh yeah,
Robinson, Wayne Kara White, Jamie Green, Philip Braswell, Will Garner, Eric Dawsey, whole bunch of folks. And Jamie says it's called Screen Tech. Is that
Green Tech. There you go.
Yep.
I got this there that when it came out, they were gonna in Northview. I got a Facebook message from somebody that said, "Hey, you can get these shirts, commemorative shirts of the school." So I definitely got a couple of them.
Excellent. I want to welcome Keven Jackson to our conversation.
Right.
I got a bunch
What's
of
up, Kevin?
Before we jump into way back when, let's talk about current now. Where do you live? What do you do? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I live in Simpsonville, South Carolina, which is just outside of Greenville, South Carolina, right off kind of right in the middle of Charlotte and Atlanta, right off 85 there. And we've been here about 20 years. And my wife and I, like I said, we moved here before we had kids. So we've had our two girls here. I've got two daughters. They're 13 and 11, and they swim year round. So that's a whole new sport for me. But we're deep in the waters, for sure in that. And they're pretty good swimmers. So they both made state cuts and doing all kinds of stuff to make the state team and even sectional team going against several schools or several other teams in the Southeast. It's like a year round thing they do. They swim. So
is it similar to travel ball for other sports?
Yep,
Not with
it
the
is.
school. I mean, it may be with the school, but it's not for what you're talking about. This is just you swim with a program or a group, a team.
Correct.
Okay.
We do a club, just the local team Green. They call it Team Greenville, Greenville Club, and they've been doing it since they were probably 7.
Very good.
And when they both hit about 10 or 11, they started taking off on their times, And my wife and I were just amazed. I mean, I was just like, wow, because I swam in a lake and a pool growing up and never,
Right.
never competitively at all. But they love it, and it keeps me, excited, and it brings back my old competitive juices when they're swimming and going in a race. And I'm right down there. Some of the meets we go to, you can get right down on their lane.
Right.
And I'm yelling. I'm like, yeah, go Jordan, Jenna, But yeah, they're 13 and 11, so we're in the prime of raising two beautiful daughters, and it's just wonderful. I love it, man. And I've been a private investigator for over 20 years now. I've been doing insurance fraud investigations is what I do. I've got my own business doing that, and also I got my realtor license about 5 years ago, and I love doing that. Just buying and selling real estate right here in the Greenville area. And my wife's a teacher, so that was a good avenue for me to start at, as far as getting clients right off the bat, brand new to the business. Going against people who've been doing it for 25 years or so.
You're definitely a busy guy. I do
Yeah.
have to ask you before we get away from the swimming, are you
Yeah.
one of those dad, you really have to control yourself at the meets kind of dads? Or
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Are the kids in the embarrassment stage of when
Uh-huh.
their dad asks?
Yep. My wife has told me when I'm yelling at them during a race, she said I sound like a maniac. Okay, and that's nothing new. That's been my whole life.
I was going to say, you
But
and I we didn't play at the same time. You're a little younger than me, but I can
right.
only envision you on the O or D line and the competitiveness coming out. But I want to welcome Jason Keel, Austin Enfinger, and is it O'Shawn Freeman have all joined. So thank you guys.
All right. Hey guys. Hey Keel.
Hey,
What's up, buddy?
Jason, let's make a pivot now. Let's take us back
Okay.
to the mid '80s in Dothan.
Yeah.
You grow up in Dothan. Where'd you go to middle school or junior high? And tell us that time period before you got to Northview.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I was born and raised in Dothan. That's my heart, and my parents and my younger sister are still there, but kind of moved around my younger years. Went to Montana Street for elementary, and but then I settled in at in middle school. We went to Girard. I went to Girard
That's my school.
because yeah, my parents live off of a Sequoia over there, so that's right around in between Denton and Cherokee, and been there for since I was 10 years old. Let's put it that way.
Did you play
But
sports
went
in
to
middle
Girard.
school?
What's that now?
Did you play sports in middle school?
Oh yeah, yeah. I played just football, and I was actually in seventh grade. I don't know. I guess I was bigger than the average seventh grader, so the coaches tried me out for the eighth grade team while I was in seventh grade. So I played for the seventh and eighth grade team while I was at Girard. I played all the seventh grade games and then all the eighth grade games too. So that was a unique experience. That was the start of my life, starting to play with older guys than me, and kind of learning, that hey, I'm not the biggest and best. There's other guys out there too.
Right.
That can give you a fight. So
Well, Jinsu Park just joined us. Hey, Jinsu,
and so
Kevin wanted me to remind you that he went to Honeysuckle. So let's talk about your eighth grade year and then transitioning to Northview in ninth
yeah,
grade. Did you
yeah.
have a lot of your football teammates from Girard also come over to Northview and remain your teammates through your Northview years?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, most of them actually. So that was a comforting experience. You're comfortable with those guys. You know them as people and friends, and also football players. And because obviously back then we had just the ninth grade team down in the hole, um, and no matter how good or how big and bad you were, you couldn't go play with the varsity. Coach Parrish wouldn't let you until you got to 10th grade, right?
That's right.
I think we practiced against them maybe one day or something. It's kind of vague, but I always looked at those guys as the older, like woo, type of guys, and always looked up to them.
Well,
Obviously,
you entered Northview in the fall of '88. Is that right?
yes, sir. Hmm.
Before you actually got to Northview as a student that fall, had you been over to the campus? Had you toured the school before that?
Not too much, not the school itself. We had driven, around the just around the campus, outside of it, just
Right.
look at the football field, basically. Um, but other than that, just not in the school really. Um,
Now, who was your ninth grade coaches?
oh gosh, I need some help here, fellas.
Well,
Uh,
we had Coach Rick Cleveland and
okay,
Coach Tribute were our coaches. That was
right,
Now I'm 6 years older than you, so that would have been in '82, and I don't
okay.
know if they continued to be the coaches. Jinsu, any of you guys who are about Jason's age, if you remember, I'm just curious who the ninth grade coaches were at that time. And while they'll pop up, Jason, but tell me this: what do you remember about your first recollections of when you got there and you realized, man, this is big time. This is 6A football, and I'm a ninth grader, and I see all these awesome guys up here on the varsity. Jamie Green says Coach Andrews was one of the coaches, but go ahead. Tell me about those first
Okay.
memories.
Yes, he was. We were at practice one day down in the hole as ninth graders, and I forget whose jersey it was. It was a defensive lineman's jersey. But I was coming off the block, and he was way faster and bigger than anybody I'd ever blocked, and my fingernail got caught in his jersey. We still had the big holes in the practice jerseys in,
Yeah.
and ripped my entire fingernail off. And I was just like, I kind of wanted to, but I didn't want to. I wanted to be tough and not show I was hurt. But my whole fingernail was off, and I was like, wow, all right, this is big boy football. Here we go. you know, so it was that was like when I realized I better get it.
Well, those practices down in the hole and down in that big pit were no fun, and I'm sure you guys were still running the hill.
Oh, absolutely.
That time period, because that really separated the boys from the men right there. In my remembering.
Yes, sir. It did. That hill was ingrained with a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, literally, and me moaning and crying and whining and complaining, going up. I just remember Coach Parrish was like, "Mullins, get your big butt up that hill, boy! Come on!"
Well, Tom, let's stay during the fall of your ninth grade year. Do you have any memories that stick out from particular games or plays or practices? And you're looking up on top of the field, seeing the varsity practice and those guys. Mm-hmm. But as ninth graders, you're down in that hole and you're stuck down there all year.
Oh, yeah. And you do kind of we felt isolated a little bit. We would come together at the end of practice, and Coach would get us together. And, I do either maybe a few of us went up and practiced with them one day, because I remember Moses Lee was just like the biggest. He was a year older than me. He was in 10th grade then, but he was a big D lineman and awesome, and I love him. And he was just, I just thought, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to go hit him, And like I said, I kind of vaguely remember practicing against them one day, but the games, really, I don't really remember much about the ninth grade year, to be honest with you, as far as the games go.
Now, did you start on the O-line?
I just remember.
What positions were you your freshman year?
Yeah. Well, in ninth grade, I played both ways, actually. I played defensive line and but that was kind of during the summer before the season started. And when the season started, I played predominantly offensive. And I was always at right guard, or really right guard is what I played, because we had and at center. Tracy Knowles was my center from ninth grade. We graduated.
You guys probably played over 40 games.
We were joined at the hip.
I don't know if you can hear me with
internet
speed, but you guys for about 40 odd games probably played next to each other. So I bet that was a real treat to play that many. Yeah. Now, your freshman year, the varsity went 4-5 under Coach Parrish. Then in ninth grade, you played 10th grade in '89, made the playoffs, were 7-4, but it was your junior year, '90. That was the team that you guys have talked about a lot, that ultimately lost in the third round to Murphy. And we'll get to that game, but I want to take you back to your 9th and 10th grade years as you guys are getting better and you're seeing the team get a little better. Mm-hmm. Do you have any idea that by your junior year you guys will be able to put together such a season?
I think we had an inkling. I mean, we know because we had Stanley Owens, and he was our running back, and we were predominantly an offense, and we had a lot of good offensive linemen that can basically run block, come off the ball and just motor through people. And that's my sophomore year is the year that I earned a starting position. And it was, I kind of had to not end up getting in a fight with a guy at practice, but we kind of did. And after that is when I earned my starting spot. The coach called me in and said, Mullins, you got it. You're starting now. And that was when I was a sophomore, okay? And I'm playing with juniors and seniors, and I'm the rookie on the line. just learning. And Matt Levin's coming, and he was the one I put my whole trust in, and just everything, what to do, how do I step, and where do I grab, all this stuff, just about being an offensive lineman. And I knew how good we were then, sure. It's amazing how we came from 10th and 11th grade year, how everybody improved. Because our defense was incredible. And, going up against them.
Jason's got low bandwidth at times, so you're kind of going in and out. We're okay. I can hear and see you, bud. I want to welcome Kalima Thompson, Gray Harrison, David Mitchell, LaShawn Pryor, and a whole bunch of comments here to throw to you. Oh, and Damon Glasgow. Let's see, we got Kevin agrees.
Hey guys.
Great team. It was a great team with a lot of great players at that time. Well deserved that sophomore year, said David Mitchell, for you to earn that spot. And I want to, let's see, I've got the stats book, and I want to take you to a couple of games that you may recall.
Okay.
Give me just a second. And
all right.
Do you remember your first start on the varsity? Do you remember that?
I recall rotating. The guy's name is coming to my blank. Can't remember his name. And tackle at that time, right tackle, actually. That's when I was a sophomore. And he and I were rotating every play. I mean, we'd literally do one play. I'd come out, he'd go in, and then vice versa. Wow. For a lineman, are you kidding me? Running on and off the field? That was killing me. And it was after that, kind of about 3 games into that, it would have been my sophomore year. So 88, 89. So it would have been,
well, let me throw a couple, Jason. I'll throw a couple.
89.
A couple of games to you.
Believe.
Okay?
Yeah.
Your first game, your sophomore year, it was Huntsville at Northview. Northview won 24-7.
Okay.
Then y'all beat Kendrick at home 10-7.
Right.
But then lost to Carver of Columbus at home after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then lost to Carroll at home. Then lost to Mosley at Mosley. But then, and this is the game I really wanted to bring you to, Enterprise at Northview was a 7-0 Northview win. Must have been a heck of a defensive battle.
Mm-hmm.
0-0 at half. Let's see, Gray threw a touchdown to Rodney Reynolds, and Jason Wood kicked the extra point, and that was that was the scoring for the whole game. And if Gray is still on, I don't know if he's still with us. See if Gray remembers that. Certainly he must. But that must have been an exciting game. That was a big crowd, too.
Yeah. And,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and back then, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm sure with you guys, Bernard, the city stopped, man, on Friday nights. When we had a game at Rip Hugh Stadium, I mean, nothing existed. I mean, it was literally the Friday Night Lights movie and show, and that's on. I mean, that was us, for sure. And I mean, it was the stand. I don't recall ever a game at home where the stands were even remotely empty at all.
Well, the last game of your sophomore year was an unbelievable game against Dothan High. About 8,000 people. Multiple overtimes. It was a 34-28 win in fourth overtime, and there's no telling how many plays you must have played that game.
Oh, I played the whole game in that game, and I remember Wayne White he's a year older than me, and he was playing linebacker for Dothan High at that time, and we had many battles on the football field, and I just remember it being kind of cold, seeing the smoke coming out, and you're breathing off your head on the sidelines, all that. And I mean, and that's why I love Wayne White, too, because he made me better as a football player, too, and then we kind of knew each other, but he was a great linebacker for Dothan High. And I remember because coming on, playing guard, I would always shave off the center double team and come up to the backer and work my way that way. But that was a good year. I remember. Absolutely.
I want to welcome Tracy Cantaloupe and 2 comments from David
No.
Mitchell. Yeah, the Lope has joined us. David says, I'll never forget Jason lifting a D lineman completely in the air and seeing the panic in his eyes. And I'm assuming he means the D lineman and not you.
I love it.
David says 28 sweep was the play at Dothan High that night. What do you remember about that play, 28 sweep? Who was running?
Well, I'm coming around, and I was a pulling guard because, back then I guess I could move a little bit for a big boy, But so and I'd come all the way from my right guard, position and just come out and Stanley Owens would be behind me. And listen, it didn't take much. Okay, all I had to do was nick a guy, and he makes his move the right way, and he's gone. And if you meet him head on, those tree trunk thighs he had are gonna knock you out anyway. So that didn't matter. But 28 sweep. That was a very heavily used play all year for sure.
Well, yep. How long did it take you to realize and to learn when you're pulling? You cannot stop or slow down, or you're going to get trucked from the dude.
It took me a while. It took me probably about halfway through my sophomore year to realize that, hey, these guys are good. I mean, they're 2 years older than me, more experienced than me. Just in angles on the football field is everything. It's geometry is what it is.
And who is your O-line coach? Who was the coach at that time?
David Ryan. And
who just joined us. Hey, Coach Ryan, thank you for
Coach,
coming in.
I love you, Coach. What's up, baby? But Coach Ryan, listen, he made me from a soft little marshmallow puffy guy into just a beast that with everything, every aspect of everything, just life, lifting in the weight room, taught me how to lift properly without getting injured, and just being a football player,
Well, let's talk about that, about being a 10th grade starter on that campus. First of all, talk to me about school spirit at that time during your sophomore, junior years.
It was at the highest it could possibly be at. I mean, everybody was all in 100%, and Northview was the only thing. And for me, I was in, hog heaven because I grew up, me and my dad, when I was in early middle school, even elementary school, used to go watch you guys play, at the Riphew Stadium. And even back then, as a little kid, I would always watch the linemen because I kind of knew I was going to be an offensive lineman all my whole life. I was a little bigger than a lot of kids, and but I would always focus on the linemen and see what they're doing, see how big they are, and but when I finally got to Northview, the spirit was incredible. I mean, everybody was all about Cougars and football, and it was great. I loved it. I mean, it was kind of like a college atmosphere, just everybody going to the games all the time, and just with it was. I loved it. I mean, it was the fever. You could feel it every day, especially on Fridays when you wore your jerseys in the hall, in the class. Everybody asking you about the game. It was great.
And how loud was that gym during those pep rallies?
My goodness, it was like a concert going off in there. I mean, it was. You could, the band start playing, everybody yelling. It's crazy. And that would totally get us hyped up and excited for the game, obviously, and get ready to go.
And was Dr. Smith still the principal at that time?
No, it was. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank here.
Somebody help me out. Tell us who was the principal in 88, 90 time period. But I'll tell you.
I just can't. I know it's where I'm seeing his face right now, and My
Was it
God.
Mr. Hardy, Phil Hardy?
Yes, and it
Thank
was
you, Sue. Thank you.
obviously that came from, you know, the whole beat me there, don't meet me there was still a mantra, during our years too, um,
Well,
and we
those
carried it on.
times,
That would just get
I'll tell you, Jason, when he would do that rhyme at the end, he didn't even
hmm
finish the last 4 or 5 lines because the entire student body was singing it with him.
yeah.
But one thing I wanted to tell you, my senior year, which was 85, my
hmm
blindside tackle, my left tackle was Chris Lee. I weighed more than my left tackle.
Oh
He didn't
wow.
he didn't weigh 180 pounds with all of his equipment on.
Right.
But what he had was that he was the heart of a fighter
Yep.
and a bulldog. But
Yep.
anyway, going back to if you really, it'd be comical if you were to compare the way some of our linemen across the board, even just 4 or 5 years before you came through, the
Right.
size discrepancies. Got a couple of
Yeah.
good comments for you here. Um, let's see. Jason Keel says Martin Andrews did a killer impression of Dr. Smith. Jamie
Yes,
says,
he did.
yeah, that he could imitate him perfectly, and he did one day during announcements.
Yeah.
And that's right, Keith. It was don't stay at home and hear about it. Come on out and see about it. And I would love to see a video from back then. I haven't
I know.
found
I
one
would
yet.
too.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Jason, take us through. We've talked about being in school and what's it like being a 10th grader and you're starting and you're watching, you're now playing alongside guys that just the year prior, you're seeing them up on the hill. How long did it take from a mindset for you to realize I've earned this spot? I've done my what I needed to do to earn the spot, and now I need to start acting like it. And maybe that was from the first day, as opposed to having these big old eyes in
Right.
amazement. I'm in the huddle with Stanley and all these guys that
Yeah.
I've been watching for
Absolutely.
years. How
Yeah.
long did that take for you to realize I got to flip the switch and play it?
Well, I knew it was getting serious when I was rotating in and out every play. Those first few games of my sophomore year. Um, and then when coach gave me that starting position, that's when I bucked up and really, like you say, got serious. I mean, I was just focused, honed in, and like this is serious, serious business. It is during the Friday night game. I mean, and these older guys looking at my young self, and I'm just like, I just want to earn the respect of them, and just proving that I got the starting position because I earned it. You know what I mean? Um, and it was then. That's really when it struck me. When I started my first game, and I mean, it was just in the crowd going nuts. It was unreal. I loved it.
Well, let's move into your junior year.
Yeah.
You've got a staunch defense. I mean, gave up
Yes.
140 points for the whole season,
Yeah.
and ultimately culminated in that third playoff game loss that Josh Parrish says that went directly over his head and went through the goal. Were you on that field goal team that night?
Absolutely. And one of my best friends, Jinsu Park, on here tonight was the kicker. The man with the golden toe, Jinsu Park, as the
Right.
news guy used to say.
That's right.
But it was, and I actually think about that exact moment often, really, because it's like when you watch a movie, and like a sports movie, and there's a big play or a big hit by a baseball player, or and everything goes silent, kind of, and you look up. So here's what in my mind plays out. So we're in the third overtime. We're kicking it to tie it right there, okay, with them, and it wasn't that long of a. I forget how long the field goal was, but it was slightly to the left a little bit. But Jinsu, listen, that didn't matter for Jinsu at all. And I remember Tracy Knowles hiked the ball. I stepped down, and that's when everything, obviously it was a third overtime playoff game,
Yeah.
but everything in my helmet went silent. And I looked up after I made my block, And I saw the ball, and I was like, wow, sweet. And then the refs were like, no. And it was just like, just so defeating, and unbelievable. And we were all confused a little. And, that was because that was our year, when Tracy Donnell and Keven Jackson were linebackers and Revis Gertman on the defensive line. Our defense was incredible that year. And my boy Lope in the backfield and DB. I mean, just that was our year. Everybody thought it. Everybody knew it. We knew it.
Well, that game being played at Murphy,
yeah,
you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. If that game's
right.
at Hughes, maybe you get that kick. But that must have been a heck of a game. If it goes 0-0 into overtime, both teams score a touchdown and extra point in the first overtime. No one scores in the second. They kick a field goal, then we miss the field goal to end the season. And you're right. There were so many folks, Larry Norton, Gray Harrison, Stanley Owens. You had so many guys from that senior class and maybe a few juniors, including yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people had that same expectations that it was going. You guys were the next team to make it to Birmingham.
Yeah. And we were talking about it. We wanted to be, it was like, the every 4-year deal type of deal. You know what I mean? I mean, we were up 4 or 5-year deal. But it was, that was the year for sure. And Larry Norton, God rest his soul too. He was awesome, man. He, because we utilized 2 tight ends a lot with Gray. Because Gray could throw. He's very skilled and very talented. And they would, I remember many times where Larry Norton and Robert Hudson would take off and be gone because they were both great athletes and played tight end. They were both great blockers too. They helped us out on the line. We went unbalanced and just really on a normal setup.
I want to welcome Shirley C., who everybody here knows.
Hey, Miss C.
Hey, Miss C. And Miss C., I want to get you on this program because everybody wants to hear from you.
Oh, for sure. Do that, Bernard, for sure. You're next, Shirley.
We will line up a date for her. Aaron Amanda Howell, thank you for joining us.
All right. Hey, Aaron.
Miss C said to tell you that she's watching. Jamie Green said that Keven had a pick in overtime that could not be returned for points. Actually, I do remember that.
Yep.
Jen Sue says, little known fact, these were college goalposts. If it were high school goalposts, it would have been good.
Yep. And it was, but it's like Josh Parrish said. Listen, it was it was good, dude.
Yeah. Jason, I want to welcome my fullback, LaRue Freeman. Hey, Rue, how you doing?
All right.
Good to see you. I'm always glad to hear from the guys from my class as well. Well, Jason, that's the end of your junior year, and obviously that's a tough season to get over. But you had a senior year, and you guys had some talent coming back. So take us into the mindset of that spring going into your senior year. What was the mindset of the team? You had Coach Whitcomb as your coach.
Right. Yep. And it was the same mindset, really, because it was a bunch of the same guys, and a lot of us juniors had started that year and played a lot. If we didn't start, we played a lot, so we had that camaraderie and knew what we had on the team as far as athletic and just, we were ready to go. And we went into it, and the first part of that year, Central, we lost that game in Phoenix City. But then we bounced back after that, and we had a good year.
Let me back you up for just a second. Had another very staunch defense.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A fourth of the point. You only gave up 136 points, and 33 of that was in the first game to Colquitt. That was a blowout loss. But then you came back and beat Central of Phoenix City at Northfield 3-0 on a third quarter kick by Jason.
Oh, yeah.
Beat Sidney Lanier, beat Carroll, but then had a string of 3 straight tough games against Bainbridge Enterprise and Mosley before rounding out the season with some wins, but then lost to Viger in the playoffs.
Right, that second year. Yep, my senior year.
But I do like that 21-0 win over Dothan High your senior year. I know you got to remember part of that game.
Well, we never lost to them. 9th through 12th grade, we never lost. So I've got that claim to fame, you know. And you know, we didn't get a ring like you guys, and that's what we were striving for. And those rings are gorgeous still to this day, this many years later, by the way. I love seeing that. I love it. Seeing Northview on a ring, champs, you know, state champs. And because you guys put our school on the map, man, the whole state, you know, because of y'all, everybody in the state of Alabama knows where Northview is in Dothan, Alabama, you know, and I love that. That'll never get old to me. But my senior year, man, it was incredible. I loved it. I got hurt my senior year. I'd never been hurt, Bernard, my entire football career. And one day, it was Thursday. We had shells on, you know, just helmet, shoulder pads, doing. Right. And I was still on the kickoff return team, and we were, you know, we kicked it, and I was running back, and somebody blocked their guy into my left knee, and I went down like a ton of bricks. I mean, I felt a pop in my knee. I was like, oh my, you know, and I fell straight on my face and got up and ended up recovering from it. I didn't have to have surgery, but I probably needed it. But I just had a knee brace on, and that kind of slowed my speed down some for sure. You know, when I was pulling, and kind of affected me coming around the corner like I wanted to. You know what I mean? But I missed it. I actually missed a couple of games that year because of that. I know I missed 2 games. But I mean, we were. It was like, you know, like I said, Keven Jackson, Revis Gertman, Cantaloupe, and that's why we were so good on offense. We had to go against these guys every day, you know, in practice.
Well, that's what I was just getting ready to say. Probably some of your practices were tougher, maybe on you physically.
Oh my gosh!
Than some of the games. I used to look forward to the games because even for us, the guys who weren't supposed to get hit, you were still getting popped, and they were letting you know they were there. You know, I had several guys my year and the year behind me who made D1 in football, and they let you know you were just another number on the other side. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, my biggest collisions it was great. I remember vividly in Oklahoma drill. You know, that's back when guys still did Oklahoma drill. I don't know if they still do it or not, but I mean, it was 1-on-1, and me and Keven Jackson always going at it. I was like, oh. And he hit like a stone wall. You hear me? And I would always be seeing sparks and just grabbing when I'm done. But I love him.
Go ahead.
What's that? I was going to say Kevin's my boy though. I love him, and we always, you know, we joke around, but he was the hardest hitter, and this includes college, that I ever hit. He was.
Well, I tell you, Coach Griffin used to make the best sounds when the big collisions. Yep. Those were some great times.
Oh yeah.
Erin Howell says she loved the whole season. I think she's talking about the '90 season when y'all would pick up and throw people over to get the touchdown. That was the best.
Oh yeah.
And David, thank you for your comment about those early championship teams that set the tone for everybody else. Well,
yes, they did. They did.
Well, let's talk about that last game. It's Viger. You guys lose in the playoffs. Your high school careers now come to a conclusion, and a swirl of emotions, I'm sure, leading up to that game and subsequent to that game. And I don't know if you can take yourself back there mentally, but at that point, your high school football career is now over. And I'm sure it was a roller coaster of a ride at times.
It was.
What do you recall about that time period, knowing that now the season in my high school career is concluded?
Just really, while I was going through it, all it was focused on was the season, obviously, you know. And with losing a few games, you know, it kind of not dampened the spirits, but I mean, it was, you know, and we fought back and we won, like you said, at the end of the season. We won several in a row, and but it was a wave of emotions. And my next mental thought process was college. Obviously, you know, what's next? Am I going to play at the next level? And I started I guess I got a letter. My first letter I ever got was from Clemson when I was in a junior year, as far as recruiting and everything. And I was getting recruited my senior year pretty good. You know, my parents and I went to visits to Alabama, to Auburn, Georgia. Um, and Ray Goff was calling the house, asking how my little niece was, you know, and I never even told him I had a niece. I was like, what? You know, that's when you had home lines and, you know,
Yeah.
he's talking to my dad when he coached Georgia back then. But um, I guess probably in December of my senior year after the season was over, um, Pat Dye's nephew was the offensive line coach at East Tennessee State.
Mm-hmm.
And they had called down to Auburn to see, you know, if they were recruiting any offensive linemen that they probably weren't going to sign, give a full scholarship to. Um, and he gave him my name because they offered me a half scholarship, but I mean, to be honest, I kind of needed a full one back then, you know. So he called me one day, and you know, it's in Johnson City, Tennessee. So we went up on an official visit, my parents and I, and it snowed that weekend, and it's in the Smoky Mountains, right? It's a beautiful place.
It's gorgeous up there.
Oh yeah, and went up there, had a great weekend, and the day I was leaving, the head coach pulled me aside to a room with balloons all in it, and you know, offered me a full scholarship, and that was my obviously in January of my senior year, so that kind of solidified where I was going, you know.
Awesome.
I knew I was, and that's an 8-hour drive away, you know, from Dothan, and I had never left Dothan in my life, you know, and I was going 8 hours away. I knew I couldn't come home on the weekends,
Yeah.
you know. Just a homesick Alabama boy when I got up there, though. I ain't gonna lie, it was a long way from home. But being on the football team there,
Yeah.
you know, it's just like with Northview. It was instant camaraderie with guys that did what you did in high school, and now everybody's there, and you know, you meet friends instantly, just because of football. And
Well,
um,
I can certainly sympathize and empathize with you about going away to
yeah,
school to play. And I want to
Vanderbilt,
welcome
yeah.
Willie White and Reed Merritt have joined us. And
Willie,
guys, uh, talk about this. You had the distinction of playing a couple of years for Coach Harry Wayne Parrish.
mm-hmm.
Senior year, I believe, was Coach Skeebo Whitcomb.
Yes,
And what a contrast. So talk about those two guys as coaches, because although I didn't play for Coach Whitcomb, I know that they were very vastly different in their approaches to coaching.
yes, they were. Obviously, you know, Coach Parrish, gonna let you know about everything and do it twice. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and and I love him. I mean, you know, that's what I knew as a kid.
That's what we all
And
knew.
yeah, exactly. And I loved it. And just, but the, you know, I loved all that, you know, and just playing for him just fired me up, you know, it got me excited. Um, and he's going to tell you everything that he wants to tell you, and you're going to sit there and take it and shut your mouth, you know. Um, and Coach Whitcomb was more laid back, but he would definitely get hype and excited. And when he did, it was usually too late at that point. Okay, like you didn't want him to get, you didn't want his face to turn red and get all excited like that because you were like, oh gosh, you know what I do now. Because he would definitely get there. But he was more, you know, like I said, laid back a little. Not that Coach Parrish wasn't. I mean, at times he was very, you know, he was very personable. I love him. I love both of them. And but that's the main difference, really. Um,
Well,
so
Jason, we're getting close to the end of our conversation, and I appreciate you taking us through this trip down memory lane, and
oh yeah,
a whole bunch of your teammates have made shout outs and have joined us.
uh,
Lately, let's see, Jackie Lewis just joined, and Jenny Parrish
Jackie,
just joined us. So thank you, Jenny and Jackie.
yeah,
Um, I want to leave you with the final thoughts that I want you to share with us.
mm-hmm.
And some of my best memories of high school sports weren't necessarily on the field. Now, I have some great ones, of course, from being on the field, but
Right,
I've got lifelong friends and so many awesome memories off the field.
yep,
But these teammates, as I've heard you call them before, they're your brothers. And you're probably, and I don't want to keep putting words in your mouth, but it's probably guys you're still in touch with.
Absolutely.
So share with us a little bit of what you took away and what you've held on to a little bit all these
All right.
years after Northview.
Well, like I told you before, when you started this page, I mean, I was just like, whoa, cool, you know, because